Hi, hello everybody. Hello everyone who is watching this recording. I want to say thank you and welcome to the beautiful light energy course. I am so happy to have you all. So let's get started on our first lesson. I am just so excited. I'm almost shaking. And I got all dolled up and pretty. Look at my hair. I love my hair. It is so beautiful. The waves are waving, like literally. But anyway, let's get with this course. Let's get into it. I'm so excited. So, I first want to start by reading you one of my poems that I wrote. And the name of my poem is called Palms, Hands. And I will kind of explain the meaning and the concept behind the poem once I finish reading it. So I am going to start now and I'm going to read it from my phone. So here it goes. My eyes are wide open, looking down at the palms of my hands. These bright are indigo palm lines, tell stories. I trace one line horizontally and remember at the palms of my hands, beautiful, faint, and dark lines meet. I trace one line horizontally and remember the sharp sting of a queen bee. Beautiful, faint, and dark lines meet. My buttocks feel the power of an extension cord. The sharp sting of a queen bee. I need some nail polish remover. My buttocks feel the power of an extension cord. Smear, peel off the paint of this memory with acetone. I need some nail polish remover. Remove, heal this memory with drenched cotton balls. Smear, peel off the paint of this memory with acetone. The queen bee is none other than my mother. Remove, heal this memory with drenched cotton balls. I guess my mother was mad about whatever, but I still love her. The queen bee is none other than my mother. My eyes are wide open, looking down. I guess my mother was mad about whatever, but I still love her. These bright or indigo palm lines tell stories. Put that over there. So that was Palms, Hands. That was a poem that I wrote. And I really didn't necessarily realize the meaning behind that poem until a couple of days ago. Like I knew the meaning behind it. I wrote that poem from a state of remembering. I was remembering a memory in my mind about me and my mother and how she disciplined us. She would, whip us. And I do remember her whipping me with a extension cord. And that was kind of how that poem came about. And as far as the palms and hands portion of the poem, in palm reading, I'm not necessarily all that into palm reading, but it's a very interesting concept, a very interesting process of palm reading. It's almost like palm readers can tell your story within your hands because they say that these lines that are in our hands are marks, from angels or they are on us at birth to kind of like tell our past and our story. And so that's kind of like how I kind of tie the palm thing and the memory within, together within that poem. So it's kind of like, oh, I look down at my hands and I remember my past. I think it's the left hand that tells your past, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not, like I said, um I'm not that familiar with palm reading, but I've read a little bit on it, but it's kind of like I think it's the left hand that tells your past. And so I kind of like wrote that poem with that in mind. And then I thought of the memory of the extension cord event. And I kind of like tied all that together. But I said all that to say is that poem affirms you. It affirms what your mother has done to wound, to create these mother wounds that you have. And you need to affirm that. You need to recognize that she possibly, or she did, cause these wounds that you have. You have become the wounded version of yourself, partially due to your mother. And I know that's hard to admit. I didn't want to admit that my mother has caused wounds in my life or caused me to be wounded in certain areas of my life. But it is what it is. You have to tell the truth and you have to be honest with yourself. So that is a really good poem to recognize what your mother has done and to accept it and uncover it, stop hiding it and say it and finally come to terms with it. So that helps you, that poem. I know it does. And I have my notes here, and I just want to kind of talk about my story with my mother wounds and kind of like how I discovered them in a sense. So I kind of like had, growing up, this is my journal. Isn't it pretty? It's a beautiful journal. Um, I had I lived, I grew up kind of in a toxic environment. So my mother had a remarried. She was married to my father at first, and then she remarried to another man. And my stepfather was very abusive to her in a sense, not physically necessarily, not physically, but like emotionally, mentally. He did a lot of things that just were not pleasing. And she allowed him to do a lot of stuff that he should have never gotten away with it, if that makes sense. And looking at that, I kind of gained what I call, or what anybody probably would call, low self worth myself. Because I saw my mother tolerating these things from a man, I thought it was okay, when I got older, and became an adult, I thought that behavior was okay. You know, you don't think that you take these things with you as an adult, but you do. You learn from your environment. You really do. Um, as a child, when I witnessed these things happening to her and her not doing anything about them, she was signaling to me without even knowing that, okay, mommy has low self worth. Mommy is not worthy. So I must not be worthy myself. That's what the child does when you look at your mother in this toxic environment. You're in this toxic environment, you're watching your mother allow things like this to happen. And so you believe, the smart person that you are, because she's allowing these things to happen, she must not be worthy of anything good. So you must not be worthy of anything good. That's how it happens. And that's kind of like how I feel I gained a sense of low self-worth and low self-value, I realized that I had a lot of, in the past, I realized that I had a lot of, I had low self-worth. I really did. I can't put it any simpler. And I also want to speak about expectancy. And I want to talk about that word because I didn't realize the beautiful meaning of this word until last night. And I want to share this with you all. So I want to go right quick and I want to, I think I'm going to share my screen with you all. So, okay, hold on just a second. Bear with me, guys. I know this is a recording. So, okay, I promise it won't be. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go here right quick. Okay. And I'm going to share. Okay. So and I'm going to type in the word expectancy. Oh my God. Excuse me. This is so embarrassing. I'm typing in the wrong word. Expectancy. Okay. Now we have the meaning of expectancy. So expectancy, the state of thinking. Expectancy. Yep. Sorry, I pressed the volume button by accident and it said the word. So the state of thinking or hoping that something, especially something pleasant, will happen or be the case. For example, they waited with an air of expectancy. That is a beautiful meaning. And now I understand why. I am a birth doula. I'm a certified birth doula. And in our field and outside of our field too, a lot of us say, oh, a mother is expecting. And that means she's, when you say a mother is expecting, that means she's expecting a child, a baby, she's pregnant. So now I understand this word and why we say she's expecting, because expecting means something. You're especially expecting something pleasant. You're in the state of thinking or hoping that something, especially something pleasant, will happen or be the case. You're expecting this child to come. You are hoping that this child will manifest and you will be able to incubate this child in your womb and you'll be able to birth this child into the world. That is your hope that will happen. That is something pleasant and that is a blessing. So let's get back to let's take this off a screen share and let's go back to what I was saying with not expecting anything. So expectancy, this is a beautiful word to me because as I got older and as I became an adult and I did not realize that I had a mother wound, I realized that I did not expect anything from a partner or a man, that I may be in a romantic relationship with, even friendships, if that makes sense. I did not expect or hope that a man would be pleasant or good to me. based off of my childhood and my environment that I lived in, I didn't see any examples of a healthy masculine man as a child. I didn't see any of that. So I didn't expect anything. I had no expectancy of a man or what he should be or what a real man looks like or what he should do for a woman. I had no expectancy. And because I had no expectancy, I didn't expect anything out of a man, and that's not good. Because I didn't expect anything out of a man, I just let, like with my last relationship with my ex, my abusive ex, he was extremely abusive. And because I didn't expect him to be pleasant or a good man, he just walked all over me. See how that works? You need to have expectancy. You need to expect this man to be good to you. Because if he's not, you need to go ahead and leave the situation and end the relationship with your partner. Because if you expect him to be good and he's not, you will recognize that. I couldn't recognize it because I had no sense of expectancy. See how beautiful that is? I know that touched somebody. Let me know if it did. If that part of the course touched you, I would love to know that. So then when we go into, let's talk about even boundaries, your boundaries being crossed as an individual. As a child, my mother never respected my boundaries, to be honest with you. She just never did. She never respected my boundaries. And I realized that she was always kind of crossing my boundaries and just disrespecting them and in certain situations. And I was never really able to really have my own voice, really. And I remember even thinking, I remember, and this is just something simple. I remember back on when I was younger, my mom used to talk about the Range Rover and how she didn't like it. Like she hated the car. She did not like it. And I thought because she didn't like it, I had to not like it. And that's ridiculous. You shouldn't do that. Because your parents have created this mother wound, your mother has created this mother wound, and she has, crossed your boundaries. She has disrespected your boundaries. You feel as though you have to do everything she says. You feel as though you have to have her same interests. You have to be a puppet to her almost. And you don't. Especially when you become an adult, you don't have to be like that. You can be your own. Yes, don't get me twisted. I believe a child should be disciplined. I do believe a child should have some sort of discipline, but it's wrong to take a child's identity away from them and give the child your identity and force things on your child because you are their parent. A child should have their own identity and their own interests. So back to the story about the Range Rover. I like Range Rovers. I realized that. I said to myself, I really like them. I think they're beautiful cars. There's nothing wrong with that type of car. I really like Range Rovers. They're beautiful. And I look at them and I've seen like different versions of the Range Rover and they are beautiful to me. To me, they are beautiful cars. So it was my mother's idea that it was her opinion. She didn't like Range Rovers. But just because she didn't like them, that didn't mean I didn't have to like them. And see how those wounds can happen? You don't know who you are. It's kind of like you're hiding yourself because of the mother wound. You're wounded. You are showing up as the wounded version of yourself, especially women when they have a mother wound. So let's talk about the frequency of water. So with the frequency of water, this is a very interesting topic. And I've talked about this before on my TikTok, before my TikTok platform about the frequency of water. And this is a very interesting, like I said, interesting topic. And I remember there was a doctor named Dr. Masario Emoto. If I'm messing up the name, forgive me so much. But you can always look him up online after this and you can look at the wonderful work he did. He was a wonderful um, scientist and he studied the frequency of water and how it affects us and how words are so powerful. They really are, like what we say are so, so powerful. And it was his idea that water holds memory. And if you speak certain things to water, water will hold that memory. And if you drink it or come in contact with it will give you almost in a sense its energy. And I remember that he's famous for doing this experiment where he took 3 jars and within these three jars, he put rice in each 3 jars and he labeled the jars. One was labeled love, one was labeled hate, and one was labeled forget. I think that's what it was called. It was like forget or something like that. And don't quote me on it because I believe that's what it was called. Anyway, he poured water in each of these glasses that had rice in them and he topped them up, closed them, and put them away in the cabinet. And well, before he put them in the cabinet, he spoke to them. So the glass that was labeled love, he said, I love you. The glass that was labeled hate, he said, I hate you. And the glass that was labeled, forget or unwanted, he didn't say anything to. He just ignored it. And he did this for a total of 30 days. I believe it was like for a whole month. And after a whole month, the glass that said love, it didn't seem like anything was wrong with it. It was freshly fermented. The water just looked so good around the rice. And like I said, it was freshly fermented and it was beautiful. Whereas the glass that said hate was molded inside. It had all this like nasty looking black stuff in it. It was, ugh, it was nasty. And the other one that said forget or unwanted, it was horrible. It was just neglected. It all kinds of mold. It had even more mold than the glass that said hate. And so what his idea was that our words are powerful and water holds our words. And our we are made up of a lot of water. I think it's like 70% our bodies are made of water. So just imagine how we are speaking to ourselves negative things every day. Those of us that have depression, those of us that have mother wounds, generational trauma, things like that. Just imagine negative things we're speaking to ourselves and what we're saying to ourselves. We're saying these horrible things. It's almost like we are the the mold is growing in us as we keep saying this evil stuff to ourselves. But just imagine what would happen if we said something positive to ourselves and we told ourselves we love ourselves every day. We would be beautiful and fermented like the beautiful rice in the glass. Just imagine that. And I say that because I mentioned that story about the scientists with the water frequency because when a woman, like I said, I'm a doula. When a woman has a baby, when she becomes pregnant and the baby grows in her womb, I know this also well because I'm also a mother. I'm a single mother. So I understand that when the baby is in the womb, the baby is surrounded by all of this water. The amniotic, the amniotic fluid that surrounds the baby, that's water. That's why we encourage women to drink at least 8 bottles of water a day when they are pregnant, because the water makes up most of the amniotic sac. That's why the sac has so much water in it, because it comes from the water that we drink when we're pregnant. So we have to drink a lot of water. It's important to stay hydrated while we're pregnant because it makes up that sac. So, being that that's said, you can get a mother wound while you're in the womb, like even before you come to this beautiful come to this earth as a human. In the womb, you're a spirit, and you're in this body, and so even before you come to this earth, you can get a mother wound. If your mother is in a negative state, if your mother is depressed, I had a lot of depression when I was pregnant. Um, that's why I decided to heal myself, because I don't want my daughters to have a mother wound, because I had a lot of depression while I was pregnant with her because of the abuse that I was suffering my from her father, and how just mean and hurtful he was to me and the things he would say. So you have to realize that if you're in a negative state or you're in a sad state when you're pregnant, that energy is being transferred to the child in the womb. And it's also signaling that the womb is not a safe space. We got to get out of here. Mothers that have been under stress and depression have had children early. They have had premature births, and they have babies in the NICU because their nervousness, their survival mode, their whatever you call it, depression has caused the baby to get out of the womb. Like, this is not a safe place. Let me get out of here. I need to be born now. That's what it causes. It causes a sense of urgency, and like I said, survival mode. The child goes into survival mode. So when that happens, you have to be very careful. Like I said, that energy can be transferred to the baby. It really can. And especially, I wanted to talk about this 17 weeks of pregnancy. When you turn 17 weeks of pregnancy, I'm also a peer counselor. I do a lot of things. I'm also a breastfeeding peer counselor. And I was at the clinic, the WIC clinic yesterday, and I was talking about this I was telling this information to one of the WIC participants, that at 17 weeks of pregnancy, the baby's hearing, like their hearing, their ears and all that kind of stuff, kind of start to develop, and they're able to hear sudden sounds. And I think, like, onward, I believe, like, at 25 weeks, they are able to hear things. So at this point, this is why they tell you to kind of like read to your child while they're in the womb, because you are, it's a lot of good studies out there that say that reading to your child while they're in the womb is really good, because at this point they can hear you at that many weeks. When they can hear you, it's really good for them. They'll start learning while they're in the womb. If you read to them, educational books and stories and stuff like that, they'll start learning while in the womb. So it's a really good thing. That's why they tell you to read to your child while they're in the womb at that time period, because it's really beneficial for them. So just imagine, like I said, with the words, remember, you can transfer energy without speaking to the child. I just said that a few minutes ago, but look at how even worse it would be if you are speaking at this time and at this point of gestation, how many weeks you are at this point where the ears are developing and they're starting to hear all these sounds and becoming aware of the voices outside of the womb. Just imagine, like, what if somebody that like your relative was speaking horrible things to you while you're pregnant and the baby can hear it, that could create to the baby and tell the baby while in the womb, oh, my mother is being treated horribly. She's allowing these things to happen. So we're not worthy. See how you can get a, that's just like a little simple example, but there's always other examples too. You know, like when my child's father, I spoke about this also too, I think on my TikTok, where my child's father, when I was pregnant, I don't know if it was around the time, I don't know if I was 17 weeks at that point or more. I can't really remember because it was kind of long ago, 2 years ago. um, but while I was pregnant, he said that I was fat and he said I was ugly. And he told me to get my ass up. And he used to tell me a lot of stuff like that. And it was very hurtful because he said I was lazy because I was trying to get some rest because I was really on bed rest because I had a lot of pelvic pain when I was pregnant. So I was just trying to get some rest, and he made those remarks and those comments towards me. And I think about that and I say to myself, what if my child, my daughter, my beautiful daughter, heard that in the womb? What if she heard that in the womb? That those negative words, those evil, disgusting words, and gain some of that energy. See how that is? And the child is surrounded by this water that holds memory, the memory of those words and how that affects them. That's why it was so important to get out of that relationship. And I'm so glad that I did, because if I hadn't, what kind of example would I have been setting for my daughter? That would have been telling her, oh, okay, my mother is not worthy, so I'm not worthy. My mother's not worthy of a healthy masculine man, a beautiful man that's gonna love her unconditionally and never call her out of her name. So I must not be worthy. I must not going to be worthy of that either when I get older to be her age. See what that would have been, setting an example. Like that would have been telling her that that was okay if I had stayed in that relationship. So it was good to let the relationship go. So I want to also talk about the how sensitive babies are in the womb to those type of sounds. You know, I learned in my doula training that when you're in that womb, like I remember my instructor saying, babies are so sensitive to sounds when it starts to develop really well after that 17 weeks period. And they can hear sirens, and then if they hear a siren, they can jump in the womb. They're so sensitive. So pay very close attention to your words, even if you're not pregnant, because this course is for pregnant women. This course is for doulas teaching their clients. This course is for sisters, mothers, daughters, all beautiful women who need to recognize these things and take heed to them and recognize the spiritual side of these things. Your words are very powerful. And the frequency of water is very powerful. It holds memory, I'm telling you. So energy, that energy can be transferred to the fetus. Just realize that. And I feel like going back to going back to having low self-worth, not having expectancy, having boundaries crossed and not doing anything about it, not holding anyone accountable for doing that, just letting people walk over me, being a people pleaser, you know, the danger of not knowing. Remember this. This is my quote. This is my quote for the whole entire course. The danger of not knowing your worth is attracting people who are not worthy of you. Okay. I thought of that last night and I was like, oh my God, sorry, this topic. Yes. So I'm gonna say that again. The danger of not knowing your worth is attracting people who are not worthy of you. That's the danger of that. So if you don't know who you are, you're this beautiful person that's been taken advantage of all your life. No one has respected you as a child. You have all these mother wounds, but you're this beautiful person and you don't know that you have this beautiful light energy inside you. You don't know that you're a chosen one. You don't know that God has favored you or the universe has favored you. Whatever denomination you are, whatever religion you are, I'm not religious. I consider myself a spiritualist, but I'm open to all of the religions. I'm not against them. I welcome anybody to come to this course or whatever. Um, but if you don't know, but I believe in God though. If you don't know that you're a chosen one, you don't know that you're a beautiful person inside, that you have this amazing light that's hidden or it's dimmed, but it's still amazing, it's still there, and you don't know these things about yourself, you will attract people who are not worthy of you. You will, because you won't recognize that they're not good for you or that they're demonic or they're evil. You won't recognize the signs. You won't see the signs because you won't know who you are. When you know that who you are, you know that you have this beautiful light energy inside of you, inside of your heart and your essence, your aura. That's what my mom called it. Aura, she loves that word. Um, when you don't recognize those beautiful lights in when you do recognize, I'm sorry, excuse me, when you do recognize the beautiful light that's in you and you know who you are, you will attract people who are worthy of you, people who respect you, people who value you, because you will not tolerate anything less. Okay. So when you don't tolerate anything less, and these people try to come at you who don't want to respect you, they move away. They are repelled, almost repelled from you. They're like, oh, okay, I need to get away from her because she don't want to let me abuse. You see what I'm saying? So they are repelled from you. Those type of people, those type of demonic, no good people are repelled from you when you know who you are. But when you don't know who you are, you attract them. And see, we have to stop attracting people like that. We have to learn how to heal our mother wound that our mother has caused us to have. And another thing is we have to learn how to forgive our mother. That's another point that I want to make. Forgiveness is so important. You have to forgive your mother for what she has done. I have forgiven. I've learned to forgive my mother because I realized that looking at her situation and looking at her life and her childhood and like reminiscing on the things she would tell me about her childhood, I realized she had a lot of generational trauma as well. And she had her own mother wounds from my grandmother, so it's generational. This goes back from generation. And even with my grandmother, I recognize her mother wound. Like they all have this generational thing, and it's up to me to break it. I will break this generational trauma, and everything that comes with it. I will, and I've already healed my mother wound. I like to say I'm already healed. My mentor has taught me that. She said that on one of her live courses, she said that I think on one of her live videos, she told me, she said, no, you are already healed. You speak it into existence, because if you keep saying, oh, I'm healing, you'll never be healed. So you are already healed. You claim it. Yes, you still have inner work to do. Yes, you'll still be on your inner work journey, but you are already healed. Claim it so you can be already healed. See how beautiful that is? So we have to, let's talk about kind of like changing this and kind of like getting to that point where you can mend that mother wound, and you can start to, like you said, like I said just a few minutes ago, healing that mother wound, claiming it, saying that you're already healed it, and promising to yourself that you will trust yourself and that you will trust your intuition and you will gain rapport with yourself. And what is rapport? Let's look that word up. That's another word I'm going to look up. So let's do a screen share. Let's do like what I just did. Hold on. And I want to, because these words, I love words because I have a English degree, by the way. I have a creative writing degree. I just had my graduation ceremony on December the 9th of this year, 2023. And I am so excited. I'm so happy about that. I finally gained my bachelor's degree in creative writing. So I love words and I love the meaning of words. So let's look this up. So it might do a little audio presentation for us if I press that button. Rapport. Yes, rapport. So a close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. Yes. She was, for example, she was able to establish a good rapport with the children, close, special relationship, mutual understanding, bond, empathy. So you have to have that kind of relationship with yourself, build a rapport with yourself in order to heal from the mother wound. You don't trust yourself if you have a mother wound. I'm just going to point that out. I've had one, and I understand that because you are in this state of dependency on your mother and her beliefs and her ideas and what she has forced upon you and what she has, because she has forced things on you and she has forced her beliefs, her ideas, and she has made you do things, you still are saying to yourself, oh, okay, I can't make decisions for myself. I don't know how to do that. That's wounded energy. That's wounded feminine energy. If you're a woman, that's wounded energy that you have. That's a mother wound. Can't say it any more clear. So you can't trust yourself because you've been in this wounded energy and you don't think you can make decisions on your own without your mother. And you can. You are your own person. You are your own individual. God has blessed you and given you the gift of intuition. So you can make decisions on your own. You have the power to tap into the God that's in you. That's another segment we're going to do. We're going to talk about how God makes you the God to your problems or your issues. That's another segment we're going to talk about. That's going to be the next session. So that's exciting. But back to what I was talking about, the rapport. You have been blessed with the gift of intuition. We all have it. We have that spirit in us. And we need to start trusting and building a relationship with our spirit intuition. We need to do this. You see this right here, rapport with ourselves. We need to do that because it is so important. And once we start building that rapport with ourselves, and once we start tapping into that intuition and trusting ourselves, we'll become better people. Like when you tap into your intuition, even with like relationships and friendships, those are relationships too. They're not romantic, but they're friendships. I mean, they're not romantic, but they are relationships. You'll know if this friend is right for you based off your intuition. You'll say to yourself, oh no, I trust myself. I know my intuition. My intuition is telling me that this person is no good for me and I need to stop being friends with them. This person, if you're in a relationship, romantic relationship, your intuition will tell you this romantic relationship is not working and it's not good for me. It's not good for my health. I'm always stressed out. You probably say to yourself, you're always, if you're in an abusive relationship like I was, you probably say to yourself, you're probably always stressed out. You're probably always feeling bad. And your intuition is telling you you're always feeling bad. So you need to leave this situation. You need to get out of this situation. So that's my point. If we learn how to tap into that intuition and we learn how to go back to that beautiful gift, which is a part of our light, that beautiful gift of intuition and trusting ourselves. When we start trusting and building a relationship with our spirit intuition, we become better people and we start to heal that mother wound. We start to get out of what our mothers wanted, what they tried to force on us and how they abused us and took advantage of us as children, and put us in these toxic environments like my mother did, and exposed us to these toxic environments and allowed things to happen. We start to get out of that when we start trusting ourselves. We need to learn how to trust ourselves. So, and that brings me to my last point with the inner work prompt that I want you all to do. You're not required to do. I want you to do your inner work prompt. I'm gonna point that out. I want you to do it, but you don't have to be in a rush. Take your time. Whenever I do courses, I joined my mentor's course, and I looked at all of the videos before I started doing all of the prompts, and I'm still finishing the course and working through the prompts. But so you can just take your time and do these prompts. And if you want to look at my videos first and then do the prompts, then power to you, you know. But do these prompts. Inner work prompts help you so much. When I started doing my inner work, I started getting so much better. I started realizing who I was, and I started to realize the shadow that I had. The shadow was who I really was. And I started to break that shadow and come out of my shell. And I started to realize what I wanted as a woman. And I started to gain my power back. And I did gain my power back. I have my power. You have to claim it, remember? So here's an inner work prompt I want you to focus on. What toxic traits have you gained from your mother wound? So think about the toxic traits that you've gained from your mother wound. Like mine was boundaries crossed and I did nothing about it. Allowing this man, my ex, who was abusive, to call me out of my name. That was a boundary cross. I didn't want any man to call me out of my name and devalue me as a woman, because your name is important. Your name is who you are, essentially. That's your identity. And so when anybody calls you out of your name, they're trying to put in another identity upon you, and you don't never let anyone do that to you. So that was a boundary being crossed when he did that. So that's a trait. You're constantly letting people cross boundaries, and you shouldn't be doing that. That's a mother wound trait. Another one is, like what I said about low self-worth. That's a trait. That's a trait of that. So think about the traits that you have. Like I said, what toxic traits have you gained from your mother wound? And also, if you're a doula and you're watching this and you're looking at the spiritual training of this course, the spiritual training of this lesson, and you're looking to teach this to your clients as a spiritual guide, for spiritual guidance, talk with them and ask them this, go along with them in this course and ask them this question and see what they say so they can discover their traits and so they can evaluate them now so it won't affect the child that's in their womb. So they won't transfer that energy so they can start healing themselves while they're pregnant. So ask them that. What toxic traits? I'm sorry I'm repeating it, but I'm doing it so you can listen to it. And also I will have information. I will send you this prompt in your email or something like that with this course so you'll always have it. So anyway, what toxic traits have you gained from your mother womb? That's a great question. Find out those traits, recognize them, and learn to heal them. And one thing that can happen with this healing process is once you identify these traits, start observing your thoughts. That's an action that you can do. That's an activity that you can do in order to start healing these traits and start getting rid of them. You can start observing your thoughts. A lot of times when we're observing, we're learning how to recognize what's going on. We're laying back and we're looking at things and we're saying, oh, okay, that's that. I don't need to do that anymore. I need to stop that. Because when we recognize the trait and we observe it and we look at it and we say, oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be doing that. Wait a minute, I wrote that down in my journal the other day and I found out that was a horrible trait. So I need to stop doing it right now. And when you start to do that, you'll stop doing it. You'll get rid of that habit. You'll get rid of that habit. I realized, like, even with eating, I lost a lot of weight. I lost 29 pounds a couple months ago, and I was so happy. But I lost 29 pounds because I was paying attention to what I was eating. I was observing. I observed that I was eating too much sugar. I was drinking too much sugar in my coffee, loads of sugar inside my coffee, eating a lot of things that just were not healthy for me. And when I started to observe those things and started to replace them with healthy choices in the kitchen, I started to lose the weight. So when we observe things, that's power. When we pay attention to what's going on, like that's why they tell you to listen and observe, because that's why God gave us 2 ears. See, I have 2 ears like you do. God gave us 2 ears so we could listen and so we could look out. And he gave us 2 eyes so we could look. He gave us 2 ears, 2 eyes so we could observe. He only gave us one mouth, so we're not supposed to be talking as much. So we're supposed to speak. I'm not saying you shouldn't speak, because speech, that's another thing I'm going to speak about in this course. Like, that's why I say this course is so amazing. It's powerful. I've been giving intervention by God. I've been getting all of this. God has been sending me all of these ideas and all of these things in my mind. I just have to share them with people and that's why I started to launch this course now. But anyway, yes, observe. That is the most powerful thing that you can do, because we were given these two things and these two things for a reason, to observe. So when you start observing what you're doing, and you start observing these habits and these traits, you'll stop doing them. And it's the same way. I had the food example when I spoke about that a few minutes ago, but it's the same way with, like, if you're someone who always speaks negative about yourself, you always tell yourself you're ugly and you're not worthy of having a business, for example. You say something like that. I have a friend girl, she wanted to start a business and still hasn't done it because she's procrastinating, obviously, but she doesn't believe that she can really do it, I believe. And because she's telling herself she can't do it, it's not happening. When really, in actuality, if she told herself that she could, it would be happening. So, and if she recognized that trait and she started to do her inner work and she started writing all these things down, and she started realizing why she had that trait, why she had those limiting beliefs, the next time that thought came up into her mind and telling her that she can't start that business, she'll say, no, I can. This is a limiting belief. I need to stop this. I'm recognizing it. Be gone. See how that works? See how amazing that works when you observe things? See the power of observing? The power of observing is amazing. So, um, that's basically what I wanted to do and talk about for this course, for this lesson, not for this whole entire course. We have more sessions coming. But that's what I want to talk about in terms of the mother womb. That's why it was so important for me to do that. Make the mother womb the first lesson of this course, because I feel like we all tend to have these mother wounds as women. Sorry, oh my goodness, that was a lot of light. We all tend to have these mother wounds as women. We all tend to, when we don't stop and observe these things, and we don't stop to look at these things and really pay attention to them, they can really affect us in our life and how we, show up in the world. We become the wounded version of ourselves when we experience these mother wounds, generational trauma. Some people may say generational curses. We don't show up as ourselves. We don't show up as the beautiful light energy that we are supposed to show up as, because we have all of these wounds that we need to take care of. But we don't recognize that we have these wounds for a reason. We don't recognize that we have them. And because we don't recognize that we have them, we can't heal them. We can't fix them or heal them. So it's important for us to observe and stop it right then and there. Stop it in its tracks and say, look, get out of my way. And that's the beauty of that. That, like I said, this is beauty. These are beauty. It's beautiful. Ears, it's beautiful. Even though even if, let's say someone is blind, they have heightened senses. Like when they're blind, all their other senses are heightened. So it's just like their other senses, senses are their eyes. Like a blind person can, their hands can be their eyes in a sense. So, because they can feel. But that's another topic. That's a spiritual topic with those things. So use these. These are a blessing. This is a blessing. These are a blessing. If you can hear out of these, this is a blessing. It's a miracle. That's what it is. And heal yourself and work on those prompts. Work on that prompt, those prompts, the prompt that I gave you, and work on that activity that I gave you, because it's going to heal you. Bye. Thank you so much for looking at this session. And I'm so glad you came to join me for the first session. Stay tuned for session 2, and I can't wait to see you there.